Hello, and welcome to another episode of Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Now I know what you're thinking. This don't look like a matchbox. Well, you're right. Sometimes when I'm looking for a new model to do a makeover on, I rummage through my box and I look and I see something that just sparks some kind of emotion in my brain, and I feel this model has to be done as a matter of urgency. I'm just looking at it and it looks so damn sad. It's a No.133, a Dinky Cunningham racing car, also known as the C5 or the C5R, made by the Meccano Limited. Way back in 1955, these came out between 1955 and 1960. Well, where did I get this one from, I hear you say? Well, this model actually came from a viewer called John Davis from Preston in the UK. And it was a while ago. It was back in 30th of December 2019. So just before New Year's 2019. That's a long time ago, so I apologise, John, if you're watching. Finally, your numbers come up. Not only that, John also sent me this absolutely wonderful little Unimog model, which is in mint condition in the box, which is quite amazing. And I thank you very much, John. This is a very welcome addition to my collection. As you can see, it's in immaculate condition. One unusual thing about this particular model is the front grille, the headlights and front grille are not painted silver. And on the box there you can see that these are supposed to come out with a silver grille. So this could be more valuable than your average one, because it's kind of like a factory error. I guess you would say that someone forgot to paint the front grille. Anyway, John, once again, thank you very much. Number 49 Unimog, back on the shelf, away from the sun, in the shade so the box doesn't fade. And I'm going to keep it forever. So getting back to the number 133 Cunningham. Have a look at that base. My God, it's just totally rusted and corroded. You can hardly read what it says underneath. Well, that is going to be addressed. I should be getting all of that rust off, that's for sure, so we can see what it says. Base is held on with 2 rivets. I do love the wheels. They're very sturdy, very strong and solid. They're not damaged, and they're a beautiful blue, which is quite unusual. It's the only car I've ever seen blue wheels. There's a windscreen missing, a steering wheel missing, and a driver missing, and also a lot of paint missing. In fact, there's not a lot left of it to talk about. I just got to, even the decals are missing. It doesn't even look like there was any decals on it. It's almost like somebody went out of their way to scrub them off. It's quite strange. Also that funny tinge of yellow over the white. What story? Well, I'd love to know the story of this car. Like, whose was it? Where did it come from? And what happened? Here's the steering wheel, what's left of it. It's just that central boss. It's only held in with a bent, sort of like a small Matchbox axle, but it's probably a purpose-built piece of metal, really. So here's a picture I downloaded offline as to what the steering wheel should look like. Now, I'm not very good at estimating stuff, but I gave it my best shot, and here is the plan that I came up for to try and 3D print a replacement steering wheel. So here I am in SketchUp designing the wheel. And it took me a lot longer than it would probably take most people, because I'm not particularly good at doing this stuff, because I don't do it enough, really. I find that the more you do things, the better you get at it. Well, I'm not very good at this because I don't do it very often. Anyway, as you can see, there is, how many levels are we talking here? 40 levels. So the printer that I've got, it's going to print 40 levels, one at a time, with a UV activated resin. And what it does, it's basically sitting on a plasma screen TV that projects ultraviolet lights pixel by pixel. So you send it the information that it needs, and it can make up 40 layers, in this instance, to make one steering wheel. They're about the thickness of 3 human hairs each layer. So very tiny layers, very thin layers, and they're stacked up on top of each other, and they are exposed to UV light. As each layer is laid, it's exposed to UV light for a period of time. It sets hard, and then the next layer is produced. It's quite amazing technology, really. Whoever came up with it was a genius. So here it is, it's finished. It only took 5 minutes. This machine is not really the best machine for printing little objects. I mean, in doing this, I probably wasted more product than what went into the actual steering wheel, because you have to clean all the excess product off of the machine each time you pack it up. Otherwise, there's a chance it can set if it's exposed to sunlight, etc. So once it's taken off of the build plate, it has to be cleaned so that the excess resin is removed, and you use isopropyl alcohol for that. And then to cure the item so it's like as hard as resin, it's still a little bit soft at the moment, you have to expose it to ultraviolet light. So I made this little box here to bounce the light around inside and try and get it on all surfaces. Seems to work quite well, and here's the finished product. Does need a little bit of cleaning up just with a toothpick, break off some of that flashing, but all in all not too bad. And there's the center boss for comparison of the new one that I've created. Looks about right. Anyway, moving on, I've got to remove the base. So as usual, I'm going to drill out these rivets, and then I'm going to replace them so that it actually looks original when it's back together. I'm not going to put those little button head screws in because the holes that I'm drilling out are going to be too large, and the heads of the button head screws would just fall through the hole. So instead I'm going to be using little collars off of pot rivets to secure the base back on. I don't want to drill off too much. I don't want to make the hole any bigger than it is. So the absolute maximum size I'm going to go is just the exact size of the rivet. That's the plan, but in reality you have to go a little bit bigger just to take that bird edge off. But make sure you don't go through the plate. So I'm just taking off the flared end of the axle, of the flared end of the rivet, just enough so it will pull through the hole, and the hole in the base is the exactly same size as it should be, as it came from the factory. Okay, well that wasn't too bad. A little bit time consuming, not too bad at all. Oh, and what do I find inside? A remnant of the windscreen, which is good, because this is a clue as to what the windscreen should look like. And I've looked online, I don't think you can buy them anywhere, so I'm going to have to make one. So that should be fun. Alright, there's a shot of the rivet posts that I'm going to drill out. There's two lumps there, and I'm confused as to what purpose they serve. Turns out that they actually hold the windscreen securely in place so that it can't be pulled out by little fingers. And there's a tab that I assume projects through the slot on the base. Seems a little bit awkward to assemble this in the factory and align that with that slot on the fly. I guess people must have done it though, because I think that's what it's for. It's just an aid to alignment. Maybe they put it in the slot as they placed the top on, and then as it emerged through the windscreen slot on the top of the model, they just somehow secured it in place. It's all a bit of a mystery, a lot to work out. Now this is my hub guard. Somebody once gave me the idea. In a comment they said put a feeler gauge over the end of the axle and it's easier to grind off. Well, I don't do it for the Matchbox cars because there's normally not enough room to, if you put that piece of metal on, there's normally not enough axle protruding to grind off. But with these larger Dinky toys and Corgi toys, it's a great way of doing it because you eliminate the risk of scuffing up the wheel. I was just removing one flared end of this axle, hoping to reform it again at the end when I put the model back together. My left hand, my left finger, is applying pressure on the end of the axle to prevent it from slipping through, but enough to allow it to rotate if necessary. There's your wheels. Beautiful, aren't they? I love the blue. I can't wait to see those painted up and clean and back on. Oh, dodged a bullet there. Sometimes you got to concentrate. Must have had a lapse of concentration there. Nearly ground the edge off the wheel. That would have been devastating because there's no way knowing I've got any spares. Here's the base. Not only is it rusty on the outside, it's rusty on the inside also. It's quite straight though, which is good. Some of them are bent when you find them, but that one's straight. So I don't have to straighten it out. Now, once again, the second time round, I found some crud cutter under the kitchen sink. Don't know how old it is, but it seems to be working. So again, today I'm using the crud cutter to try and get rid of the corrosion off of the base. It's a form of acid. I forget what acid it was. Phosphoric acid? I don't know. I mentioned it in one of the videos a couple of weeks ago. These decals are a bit ordinary. I'm going to have to make some replacements. Now, I looked online and downloaded an image, but the font was incorrect. The numbers were completely wrong. So what I've done is I've tried to mimic the numbers that are just visible on the model and make my own decals that look more original than the ones that you can buy online. So here you can see the transformation from the bottom up, and the top one is the one that I'm not using. The second one down is the one I am using. It's like cleaned up and coloured in and looks pretty sharp and looks very, very, very similar to the original decal, which is what I was after. So now I've made up a print sheet and it's time to print the decals out on some clear decal paper. Because it's a white model, I don't need to have any background colour. The white will show through the clear backing, and hopefully the printer will just print blue numbers onto the transfer material. Numbers and racing stripes, of course. Here we go. I'm always worried this gets smudged because you've got to remember to set glossy paper when you're doing this. Sometimes I forget, drag it out and it's all smeared. Oh, beautiful. But that looks pretty damn good. I'm happy with that. And those numbers, wow, they look exactly like the original. Sort of, that's a Matchbox. No, it's not a Matchbox, it's a Dinky font. Wow, look at that. I'm going to mix up a tan for painting the cockpit and the seats and the dashboard. And I've concocted this tan colour from all of... I didn't have any tan didn't have any tan on the shelf, so I had to make it up from the other colours. A bit of red, bit of black, bit of yellow, bit of brown. Looks not bad. It's sort of a toffee colour. I'll put that in these sealable pots, set it aside for when I need it. Now time to strip the paint. That looks even better than it did before. And look at the detail on that grille. It's awesome. It's a funny shape for a car though, isn't it? It's a big lump of metal. As usual, I'm going to give it a quick surface coat of primer before I apply the top coat. So here I am in the spray booth once again, using the Tamiya fine primer. Now in hindsight, probably should have used the white one, but I used the grey. Doesn't seem to make much difference, really. I do like the grey though, because it just, as I've said before, it just makes all of the details on the casting just stand out. And all of a sudden it's a thing of beauty. Let's check in on the crud cutter, see what's happened. This has been in here for an hour or more, and it's done an absolutely fantastic job. It looks like it's still covered in paint, but it's not. It's actually metal. It's turned the metal black, I've etched it, and removed all of the rust. So I've got some Anchor satin black spray paint here in a can from my local hardware shop, and I'll give the base a coat of that. Now what happens here? Well, of course, Smudge wants to come in and see what's going on. Why hasn't she been fed today? And she's curious as to what's happening on the bench. It's quite annoying, but she's absolutely adorable, so I can't tell her off. But I hope I don't get cat hair on the model when I'm painting it. That would be pretty annoying. There she goes, off to find a mouse. So here, have a look at this, a little tiny dimple damage on the back there, but a beautiful casting on the fuel cap, the boot, and some tail lights. Not a lot of detail, but then again, I did look at the picture online of the real thing, and it didn't really have a lot of detail. There was a lot of detail inside near the steering wheel. There was switches and buttons everywhere. And yes, the grille looked exactly like that. Apart from that, it's quite clean, the actual car, as it is a racing car, so they probably want it to slip through the air with minimal turbulence and air resistance. So there was only one of these vehicles made by Briggs Cunningham, who won the Le Mans race. No, he didn't. He came third, sorry. Came third in 1953, which was pretty good because he was financing his own racing team. The average speed for that race was 104 miles per hour. And it peaked at 154 miles per hour. So they weren't hanging around, that's for sure. And they're driving for, what, 24 hours, which is amazing endurance, really. Not just for the vehicle and the engine, but for the driver also. And to maintain those speeds is just unbelievable. It's been likened to the shape of a wing, actually. It's kind of fat at the front and thin at the back. And there is one person I saw interviewed on the internet who drove it at high speed and said that it actually felt like it was lifting off the ground as he was maxing it out. So it actually did produce its own lift to some degree, according to his testimony. I'm going to paint the wheels, so I'm going to clean them first. I used to use a little wheel rig and some toothbrush and some washing up liquid. Now I'm taken to using my ultrasonic cleaner. Put them in there for 5 minutes. Look at this top coat on this car here. Isn't it beautiful? I am excited. I looked at that and I'm thinking this is going really well, and I'm glad I've chosen to do this model today because I'm excited about what it's going to look like at the end, and I think it's going to look absolutely beautiful. I've got to fish around in this muck. I ran out of this ultrasonic cleaning fluid, electrical circuit cleaning fluid, a while ago, and this is the last of it. I must get some more fresh stuff. And so I've got it in the separate container in the ultrasonic cleaner. That way I don't have to fill it up with the fluid. I just use a small jar of it immersed in water, and it has the same effect. These wheels look exactly like this sky blue colour from Tamiya X14, so that's the colour I'm painting them. Now normally I use this little jig here. I put the wheels on there, but because this is a bigger scale model, the holes in the wheels are bigger than normal. So I've had to adapt, and I'm using matchsticks instead of toothpicks for this model only. Now here's a picture again I downloaded of the car to get an appreciation of the size of the steering wheel. And now I'm using it to compare the colours. I think that it's going to look pretty good. The driver is blue as well, and he's a slightly lighter colour of blue. Strangely enough, they chose a different colour for the driver than they did for the wheels, even though they're both blue. Now I'm showing you the internal cockpit on that one is blue and it's got black tyres. In this one it's tan and it's got white tyres. So there's two variants there. I'm going to go with third variant. Black tyres with a tan interior. I think it's going to look pretty cool. And I think most of the images I saw online were that configuration of colours. Now I made a mistake there. I forgot to drill those rivet posts out before I painted it. The annoying thing was I damaged the paint when I was drilling it out, so I actually had to, behind the scenes, strip the model back and repaint it white again, which was a bit of a setback and extremely annoying, and a lesson learned to drill out the rivets before anything. Now this little model came from Recover Toy, and I think it's very good. It's very heavy metal. It's got a little bit of flashing on the back. I'll just get rid of that. But overall, I'm very impressed with the quality of it and the accuracy of how it looks compared to the original model. It's even got that lump in the bum to secure it in the cockpit. It's also got some overalls on with some pockets on the chest there. Nice little detail. Okay, so this is the second time I've painted this, and now I've painted the internal cockpit, and it's already starting to get me excited because it's looking, every little step I take forward makes this thing just pop a little bit more. I've got to just touch up these red headlights, and I'm going to attempt to use a cocktail stick, which I've cut flat on the end, and I only get one chance at this. And I hit it and it looks not bad, and then I do the second one and I think it looks a little bit ordinary because the cocktail stick obviously was not perfectly circular. So I have to address that later with a bit of a touch-up to make it look worthy of the final carousel reveal shot. But I move on and let that paint dry before I mess around with it, because things can get out of control real quick. Here I'm cleaning the axles, just taking all the rust off. And this is how I'm going to reform them, using this little anvil, which is basically a bolt that I've drilled a depression in. And I use it for these large axles because I don't have a hollow punch in my shed to put in my drill press to peen them over. I haven't got a large enough hollow punch, so I always peen the big axles over at this stage until I get a bigger punch. So these wheels I'm just showing you there is an inside and an outside. The inside has a secondary ring cast in it, and the outside is smooth like the hubcap of a racing car. They'd want them as smooth, as slick as possible, wouldn't they? So using this little anvil, I put the domed headed end of the axle in that depression, and that stops it from skipping around. And then I just take my time with a ball peen hammer and peen the end over. And I try moving the hammer around to try and make the peen even all around rather than on one side or the other. Now look at that. That's actually looking pretty good. It looks new already. I'm loving it. Now I found these tyres are actually corgi tyres, and I thought they should do perfectly. They're the right size. They're 17mm inside diameter. Anyway, I can't use them because if you have a look at them close up, they've got corgi embossed in the side, and I turned it over and it's got corgi on the other side. So I thought I can't put corgi tyres on a Dinky car, that would look silly. So I had another set of corgi tyres here, again 17mm internal diameter, and looking at these, I'm in luck. There's no corgi stamped on them. So these are going to do perfect for this model. So let's see if they fit, and they do. they fit actually better than the originals probably. They go on really, really well. And they're a nice snug fit, and they sit in that groove. They don't rub on the base. And they look like they're meant to be. So that was a bit of a win. Now, things get a bit shaky here. I have to paint this grill with a brush. And extremely difficult because you have to poke the paint into all those little gaps. There must be 100 gaps there. And it took me forever to try and get it looking as what I wanted it to look like. Same with these headlights. I'm not using the chrome today. I'm just using a normal drab silver paint, similar to what Dinky would have used back in the day. They didn't have that chrome paint. If you look in all the pictures, they're all a little bit ordinary. Now I do have to touch those headlights up once the silver's dry with a tiny little bit of white paint. Alright, now it's time to paint the driver. I got this face painting set. It's, what is it? Fellatio or something brand. And I'm just going to paint his face. And here I've got the light flesh, I think it's called. It's very runny, this paint. So I have to leave it sort of set up a little bit. Because if you just put it on, it's like a wash. It doesn't really cover too well. So I set it aside so it thickens up, and then I do it again. Now here is a remnant of the windscreen, and I'm looking for some perspex to use to recreate a new one. That stuff on the left's too thin. The stuff off the base of a Coke bottle is really, really tough and difficult to cut. And it also has a lot of moulding curves in it, which makes it not really suitable. Anyway, here is my first attempt at making a windscreen. It wasn't that good. So I thought I'll go and spend a little bit more time, and I basically designed it on the computer, and then I got the laser cutter to cut out a paper template based on the design that I had made from reference material online, and believe me, there wasn't a lot there. And this was the template that I was going to use to cut out a piece of plastic from a fruit juice bottle that I had. So here's a test fit of the paper, and I'm looking at it and thinking, well, that doesn't look too bad. That could actually work if it was clear plastic to look through. So the plan is that, as I said, I've got this fruit juice, apple and blackcurrant. It's great stuff. I love it. And we finished the bottle off so I could cut it apart. And it's not flat. I couldn't get a flat bit because the stickers were in there. I couldn't get the stickers off. So I've had to go for a curvy bit. And now with the paper glue, I'm sticking my template onto the plastic. And because it's like paper glue, it's not going to leave any residue. And I should be able to remove the template after I've cut around it without any damage being done to the plastic. So this was very time consuming. I spent at least 2 hours making this windscreen, and chewed up a lot of my day. Time just flies when you're having fun. And I thought all my measurements were perfect. Looks good though. Let's have a look. Does it fit? Fits in there, and it fits in there. But it's supposed to sit on the wings of the car, the side of the car, and instead it just fell straight through. So I spent 2 hours on that, and absolute rubbish. So that was number one. So I changed the profile of the template slightly wider at the top and slightly longer. I wanted a slightly longer tab at the bottom. I've got to remember to cut that like that. And you can see there for comparison, the first one I did that failed is on the right, the second one on the left. I'm hoping it's going to work. It's a very minor difference, but it's critical. So here we are, probably another hour later. This is crazy, the amount of time it spends to do this stuff. Anyway, I poke it in. And what do you know? Oh yes, that looks absolutely beautiful. I think that is a winner. So anyway, I've got to put this back together now. Now, I've got to think of the order. I've got to put the windscreen in, the man in, and the steering wheel in, basically before I put the base on. I don't know what to do first. I'll do the steering wheel. And from the pictures online I was looking and I thought, gee, that steering wheel looks big. And that's how it was held in, just with a bent piece of metal. Anyway, it seems like it's fit for purpose. And that little man sits in there. Sweet as. Look at that. Even goes straight through the hole at the bottom. This is just too good to be true. Windscreen goes in. Lovely. Now I've got to secure that underneath. And this is where the mystery of those two lumpy bits comes into play. Didn't realise, but the windscreen actually clicks on over those lumps. Those posts underneath. The windscreen clips over them. And I guess that is to prevent children from pulling it out. As for the tab that goes through the base, that's still a bit of a mystery because I don't know what the original windscreen looked like on the bottom. Doesn't seem to matter though. It goes together strong with no play in it or anything, and it can't be pulled out. So I'm leaving it as is and not concerning myself with having it protruding through the slot. Just glue those rivets in with the tiniest amount of araldite. Tiniest amount because I don't want it squeegeeing out under the head. Here's a close-up of what it looks like, and I think they turned out mighty fine. Almost as good as the originals. Now there's just one more thing to do, and that is to put these decals on. And I'm quite excited, to tell you the truth. So here we go. This is the grand reveal. Look at what this looked like. Pretty miserable. You can see why I had to get it done. I could not put this back in the box as is. It's just crying out for it. And here we go. Check it out. What a beautiful car. What a beautiful model. Not 100% perfect, but then if you look at some of the examples online, there's a lot of errors came out of the factory. But this thing here, apart from the windscreen not being smoky, because I think on the actual model it was smoked, this looks as good as they get. And I'm absolutely overjoyed with the outcome. And I feel it was well worth doing. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, please leave a comment, like and subscribe. And don't forget to recommend to your friends. So until next time, this is Marty from Marty's Matchbox Makers. From Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Saying thanks for watching and goodbye. And where's that wheel gone? Where's the wheel? Where's the effing wheel gone? Where's the wheel gone? Oh, there. Oh, it was. Oh, f***ing hell. Every time I do anything, I'm too scared of touching the bastard.
Yeah.